Well, welcome back. Another episode of Giving Back Podcast. I'm here with Erin Throckmorton, Colin Tordale, and our special guest, Ozzy Dahlman.
That's right. Welcome, Ozzy, again.
Thank you.
And here we're going to talk about some Cape Buffalo. Everybody loves Cape Buffalo, Black Death. Look over my shoulder. They're intimidating. It's one of the most dangerous hunts of all dangerous game in Africa.
By far, yeah. They're a whole different, they talk about the dangerous seven, and they're all dangerous in their own ways, but Cape Buffalo are just a different creature. They just look pissed off all the time.
They do. For years, I'd see it on TV, all the hunting. I'm like, what's the big allure, right? Until one year I went with you on safari, and when they're doing our game drive, and I told you before we got there, I'm like, hey, I want to stand in line of a Cape Buffalo, get a picture. So we pull up, and here's this whole herd of Cape Buffalo right there, and you're like, you look at me, and I'm like, yeah, let's get off. And you go, there's your picture. Start stepping off the rig, and our PH was like, wait, what are you doing?
I remember that. We still have that picture. I still have it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do too. In fact, people are probably looking at it right now, but
right.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah. But what's not shown there is I'm like 6 feet off the buggy, and Erin's like plastered back against it, taking a picture. But
we cropped the buggy out, but that was still cool. That was your first day in Africa, actually.
It was.
And
yes.
there, people always, you talk about Cape Buffalo, but when you see one for the first time in person, what did you think the first time you saw Cape Buffalo when you were in Africa?
They looked super angry.
Yeah. And
like they could be destructive. And I had watched a few videos before I went over, and I saw them attack like lions. So definitely they have my respect for sure, but they look angry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You tried hunting one with a bow.
I did. It was, what year was that? 2016. I flew to South Africa. And that year I was actually, I was working for another company, and I was vetting or, hunting with 4 different outfitters. And what happened was we were supposed to hunt a particular ranch for this buffalo free range with the bow, which is what I wanted to do. Well, the guy that owned that piece of property, his son was murdered 2 days before we got there. So obviously that hunt was off. We had to kind of scramble. And so we found another hunt. It was near Aldays, which is in northern South Africa. And it was high fence. But anyway, these buffalo were actually, it was so thick there that we couldn't spot and stalk, which is what I wanted to do. And they said the only way to do it is there was some water there, and was to sit up in these rocks. So I'm up in this rock pile. When I say rock pile, I'm up 30 feet. Oh, wow. And these buffalo would just come in. And I knew up there you're completely safe. But the first time I was up there and I saw this herd come in, my heart, there's no way I could have pulled my bow back. No way. My heart was beating through my chest. But
throw it at him.
I was really concerned that I was never going to get a shot. And that first night, the buffalo, or the big bull, he never gave me a shot. And so I had a little bit of time to, kind of get my nerves under me. The next day he did come in, and I went to pull my bow back, excuse me, and he spooked, and the whole herd ran off. And I'm like, dang, man, that's not good. And he finally snuck back around. And in my excitement, what happened was I pulled the bow back, and when I came over on him, the pin was 34 yards. My pin was right behind his front shoulder. He was kind of quartering away from me. And I didn't notice that my broadhead was touching one of the boulders below me. Mm. So when I squeezed that trigger on my release, all that kinetic energy stopped, and it came right back through the arrow. It blew all the other arrows out of my quiver. It blew the string off the cams. It bent my cam, and that dangerous game arrow that is indestructible, it put it in 3 pieces.
Oh, wow.
So there I am sitting there with the one hunt I've wanted to do with a bow for so long, and my bow is completely in pieces. And that's actually on one of the episodes.
Nice.
The outfitter was above me, and when the buffalo ran off, he hollers, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" And I'm like, I don't know what the hell happened. I'm just looking at this carnage. My arm was all bloody and everything. But so the next day we went back in, but I didn't have a bow, so we ended up getting with a rifle.
Do you take your knife out and chase it down?
No, definitely don't do that. I wanted to. I was so upset. I wanted to. But no, I wouldn't recommend chasing it with a knife. I actually wouldn't recommend chasing them, period, to be honest with you. But no, I was able to get my first Cape Buffalo, and there's really nothing like walking up, you know this, on that first bull that you get. And the one thing I remember was walking up to him and like patting him. And it was like concrete. They're solid muscle. And then I was thinking, because what happened, you know, long story short, when I shot him, I was shooting down with the rifle. Well, I didn't compensate with my nerves, and I shot too low, and we got one lung. So we actually had to track him for, you know, not very long, but he stayed with the herd. And at one point, the herd turned, and there's 20 buffalo running at us. So we all had to run, and luckily they kind of turned and went the other way. But that was the first time that I had buffalo coming right at us, and there's 3 of us there with rifles, and I'm like, this is not good.
It's not enough.
This is not good.
Odds at all.
So luckily they kind of peeled off, and that bull, he was hit pretty bad, and I was able to get another shot in him. But yeah, they're mean animals. I mean, and then when, you know, after your picture, you kind of got the bug a little bit yourself.
Yeah. So now that I've bagged a Cape Buffalo, I think about it all the time. You should see my YouTube every time. Suggestions for you, it's Black Death, right? So my experience everything just like played out perfectly for our hunt. We went and shot the gun in mid-afternoon. We drove around, cut tracks, found them. Then we made a plan, got up ahead, you know, upwind and downwind. But yeah.
If you want to make it tougher, we go upwind.
Yeah. So then we stalked down, and we had one come, you know, like there's one road going through there, and it's just a 2-track, you know, just a small little dirt road. We're on one side, the Cape Buffalo's on the other side looking at us, but we had the sun behind us. It couldn't really see us, and he'd spin in circles, but it just wasn't the one we wanted to take. So, and then he went back in with other bulls. We circled back around, got up ahead of him again, and they're feeding from left to right in front of us. And then he steps out. I'm on my knees with my hand up on the shooting sticks so we can get down below the branches and squeeze the trigger. And the next 12 seconds before he tipped over was chaotic. He turned, ran straight at us for 20 yards, stopped. The broadside, he's about 15 yards away. Then he spun back toward us and ran across in front of us. I stepped in front of everybody, shot him a 3rd time, and then he ran another 25 yards and tipped over. And then I went, holy shit, that just happened.
And you weren't alone. I mean, you had your wife and daughter there.
Wife and daughter. I stepped in front of them on that last shot. The PH reached for his gun after the second shot because he's spinning back for us. But yeah, it was intense. And then he had another bull standing over the top of him when he tipped over, looking at us. So we had to stay motionless because we didn't want to invoke him to charge.
Because he's already worked up now then too.
Yes. So we were there for like 10 minutes before he walked off. And then we waited another good 10 minutes before we walked up to approach and stood there guard for a while to make sure we didn't hear any trees breaking or something coming back toward us because there was a group of 6. So after I got that Cape Buffalo down, that was just exhilarating, heart pumping. And I understand why people go back all the time to hunt these animals because the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I want to do another one, you know.
Everybody does. They always say, I want to hunt one buffalo, you know. Even after my first buffalo, I went with a buddy to Namibia. This was right after Ozzy and I met. We had been dating maybe a month. And I told her I have to go to Namibia. And my good buddy Mike and I were there. And we had an opportunity to hunt some really old free-range Dugga boys. And I'm like, man, I already shot one. But, you know, let me hunt another one. And we ended up taking 4 on that safari. But mine was crazy. We were actually out looking for an elephant for Mike. And one of the trackers saw a bull sleeping under a tree as we're stalking. And so we're like, whoa. And so we looked, and Devon was the professional hunter. He said, dude, that's a good bull. Let's go. And so we're stocking up on this thing. And he handed me his 470, which I've never shot a double rifle before. So and it was, you know, a large rifle. I wasn't worried about that. The only thing I was worried about was hitting them both at the same time. And so as we get up there, he gets me on the sticks, and we stopped at 12 yards from this bull. And all I can see is his boss. I can't see anything else. And Devon starts to kind of beller. And after the 3rd one, he stands up, and I shoot him directly in the chest, and he spun. And Devon's yelling, shoot again. And I'm like, damn, I'm trying to get the rifle back down. You know, I wasn't used to that, but I shot him in the chest, and he tipped over. but I'm, to be that close to those things, it's incredible. But then a couple months later, we go to South Africa on her first trip, and we got a little close.
That was a week after I was there and got mine.
Yes, that was exactly a week after you.
Yeah.
So you got your Cape buffalo. We flew in a week later, not hunting buffalo.
So maybe I was the one that got them all riled up, because you guys have a heck of a story on Cape Buffalo
I
experience.
think you did get them riled up. Must have been the one standing over yours.
Right?
Yeah, that was kind of scary. And like Erin said, we weren't hunting buffalo. We did a lot of filming. We were in the blind, the giving back blind. And
this was your first day.
yeah, my first day.
First day.
And
in
we're
Africa.
keeping tallies of all the animals that we're seeing. And I'm just blown away, just completely blown away. And then this gemsbuck comes in.
Yeah.
I'm still learning all the names. I'm pretty good at it now, though.
She's
There's a
getting
test
good.
later.
Yeah, I think I could pass it, to be honest. So this gemsbuck comes in, and he's beautiful, and Aaron's got his bow, and we've got the camera set up, and actually did a really good shot of him getting this gemsbuck. And we waited. In the meantime, I guess backstory is buffalo had come through, zebra had come through,
Yeah.
ostrich and warthogs and just everything. And there was a particular buffalo that Aaron kind of pointed out to me, and he's like, that one, he's mean. And you could just, the look in his eyes was terrifying.
I'm pretty sure it's the same one, because my dad was in that area the week before hunting, and after wildebeest and other things, and went to a certain area in Rouen and said, no, we're not coming out because there's a mean bull right. They just saw him.
In that
So
giving
it's
back
probably
area.
in that same area. So
Yeah.
it's probably that same bull.
Well, and it was funny because the whole herd came in, and it's always exciting. And then, we're 20 yards from all these buffalo.
Right.
And so, she was really excited, but there was a bunch of young bulls that were actually a lot taller than this bull. But man, when this old bull came in, he just, it's like an old black bear. He just waddled in, and all the young bulls, even though some were bigger, they had bigger bosses, horns or whatever, they moved out of his way. And I told her, we were kind of joking. I'm like, man, he's mean. We were kind of joking about it. So, and she's right. The gemsbuck came in, we shot it, and I called Tino and I said, hey, I just shot a gemsbuck. Can you come in? He goes, yeah, Jeffy's and I are in the area. And I said, I think he said, but I don't have a rifle. And I said, oh, you don't need one. I said, this was a good shot. We watched it back.
Mm-hmm.
So we came in and we started tracking this thing. And I don't know, the gemsbuck made it 80 yards, maybe 80.
Maybe.
And so we're taking pictures, and then, I don't know, people are walking around.
Goofing off.
Well, there
Oh, yeah.
there ended up being 7 of us there because Hillary, another one of the trackers, him and 2 buddies, they were in the area. So they came in just to see the gemsbuck. So we had, I think, a total of 7 people there at one
Oh,
point.
wow.
Just having fun, taking
Yeah.
pictures.
Well, that 45-minute picture shoot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
And so Jeffius had said, look, I'm going to go back and get the vehicle. He left the vehicle at the blind. And so I think she was talking to Tino, and I was kind of messing around, and then, tell him what happened next.
Yeah, so I just know my version, which fortunately is less exciting than Erin's. I prefer mine. Erin was actually, I think, taking some video, and Tino and I were standing just kind of talking, and out of the blue you hear this scream, like this man scream that almost sounded like a woman. It was terrifying. And then I remember Tino saying, run, and he grabbed my hand and just drug me, and I heard hoofs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. I was running as fast as I could, and I'm in hunting boots and stuff, and I fell down. Tino's dragging me. I'm trying to run to get back up, and my legs kept going out because he was too fast. So he drugged me and kind of went around this termite mound, and this root was there, and I could still hear the hooves. I heard everybody screaming. It was chaos. I didn't see anything but thorn bushes, and I was laying there kind of hyperventilating, and Tino said, don't move. And I'm like, oh, I won't. I was like, I'm going to stay here. And I could hear the hooves run off. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's gone. But I'm still laying there. I'm shaking. And Tino starts calling for people, and they're answering. And he kept saying, Ozzy, stay there. Don't move. And he's calling for Erin. And Erin's not answering him. And I remembered when we left, Erin didn't run. And I remember thinking, why isn't he running? And so I was like shaking. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't want me to see. Like, because he kept saying,
Right.
stay there. And so the worst things were going through my mind. And he kept saying, calling for Erin. And there was nothing. And then finally, I heard his voice. And I'm like, oh. I just then kind of relaxed. And then it was too much adrenaline, you know, but it was also relief because it felt like everyone was kind of safe at that point.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was away from everybody, and actually where I was in comparison to when the buffalo charged Jeffius, I was the farthest one away. And so I hear Tino yell run, but a little backstory, she's asking me about Africa and how safe it is. And I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, of course it's safe.
Of course.
My family was concerned.
Yeah. And I told Tino this, and part of me was thinking he's messing with her. So I just stood there. And then I could hear the buffalo, and then I could hear Jeffy scream. So I knew it was serious. But in my mind, I'm thinking that bull was not alone. The buffalo was in a herd. So I'm scanning out to my left to make sure I didn't know if there was a whole herd coming at us. And I saw the buffalo, and then I finally did turn. I saw that he was dragging her, and I was like, oh shit, this is real life. This is not, we're not screwing around. So I take off running. I go about 30, 40 yards, and there's a average sized tree. And I thought, let me just get behind it and assess what's going on. And as I turned around, the other 3 trackers that were between me and the buffalo are now completely up trees.
Oh.
And so it's just this big white American out in this field, and this bull sees me and he's coming. And at that point, I'm like, well, I got to run. The dumbest thing you could do. But, you know, another thing, I still have my bow in my right hand and my camera in my left. I didn't drop them. Part of me was like, well, I don't want to get damaged.
Right.
So, you know, it's funny what goes through your mind. But I take off running, and man, you could hear him coming. And so I kind of looked over my left shoulder, and he's less than 15 yards, and he's coming. And so I'm kind of bracing for impact. And I thought, well, at the last minute, I'll kind of juke left, you know, thinking I'll just outmove him. Well, I tripped, and I go down hard, face in the thorns, cameras in pieces. And as I brace, I kind of look over, and he jumps over my feet.
Oh, wow.
His momentum carried me. And so he takes off running. I get up, and there's a little, 2-foot bush, and I get behind it, and I'm just kind of looking, and I'm like, it's funny. That actually made me feel safe in a weird way. And then I hear all these guys hollering for me, but I'm just like so hyperventilating, I couldn't answer them. I finally do, and they all run over, and we're getting pieces of my camera, and we're getting the bow, and we look over, and that's when I got really scared because Jeffius is still laying face down in the brush. And so I figured he was dead. We run over there and rolled him over, and he kind of moaned. And I was like, oh, thank God. You know, but he had some thorns in him. The bull actually hit him in the back and stepped on him and kept going.
Oh, wow.
And to this day, we were talking, we don't know why. He could have killed him. He could have killed me. And that bull didn't. I just think what happened was after the fact that we shot the Gems buck, there's blood at the blind. He's so old that the younger bulls are keeping him from breeding. So he's sexually frustrated. Right. And he's a Cape Buffalo. And I think he just was pissed that people were there.
Just pissed.
He was pissed. So, you know, I've had some crazy moments with Cape Buffalo. So is she. That's actually one thing I want to do in the next couple of years is get her on a Cape Buffalo hunt herself.
I'm too scared right now.
Because, you know, in another podcast, we're going to hear about her first safari, but her first animal was taken with a 375.
Oh, wow.
So she can shoot a buffalo gun.
Shoots big boar guns.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys are looking for a Cape Buffalo hunt, we have a lot of Cape Buffalo hunts all over Africa. South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Mozambique, Tanzania. Get a hold of us. They range in styles from high fence to free range, from inexpensive to very expensive.
Yes.
So it's something everybody has to do at least once in their life.
Go experience it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Thanks.
If any of you want to go on any of these hunts or trips around the world that we talk about on this podcast, True Flight Adventures can help you with every step of the way. Get a hold of us either by calling or emailing, and we can get you on that trip of a lifetime.
Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to hear more of our stories and commentary, or something to sleep to, be sure to follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. If you enjoy watching us ramble on, then subscribe on YouTube or Carbon TV. Until next time on Giving Back TV Podcast.